I'm Jared Quan. I'm the president of the League of Utah Writers and a couple other organizations. I love this particular quote. The most common way people give up their powers is by thinking they don't have any. Now, that can mean a lot of different things to different people. But what people don't understand or don't think about is volunteers actually have the most power, right? Organizers all depend on volunteers for things to happen. Volunteers are phenomenal, right? If you have phenomenal volunteers, you're going to have a phenomenal event. That's how it works, right? Because you can delegate to them, they can take on extra tasks to do amazing things. You empower yourself the most if you volunteer for things. Now, even though mine's about volunteering, self-promotion through volunteering, when you go into volunteering, you don't go in there thinking, or at least the way you approach it isn't, hey, I'm just going to promote myself the whole time I'm volunteering. Because that's the wrong way to go about it. That's the wrong way to get the most out of your volunteering. So, like I said, I'm the president of the League of Utah Writers. I'm also the chair of the West Jordan Arts Council and the executive director of Big World Networks. It's a publisher. The Utah Poet Laureate Selection Committee, that's brand new. Recruiting chair for the Association of IT Professionals, and I volunteer at all these other events also. So I do a lot of things, right? The most important title to me, of course, is father and husband. I have to make sure, and everybody should always put family first. Take care of your family, take care of your home, and they'll take care of you. That's important. And I have my two boys, you can kind of see them on there, that I love to take care of. And then I have my 3 daughters. So I have 5 kids. I have 5 kids, and I work a full-time job, and I volunteer for like 1,000 things. So I get it when people are like, I'm busy, I have like this many kids, or I have a kid that's this old, or has this particular issue. I totally understand. I get it. It's not super easy. It's not something that's accommodating. But it's really about making yourself available. Now, I'm going to put my agenda up. So what does volunteering look like, especially for me, what it looks like with all those other things going on. How do I juggle it, kind of thing. Standing out, why this is the best option for self-promoting. LinkedIn, people underutilize that tool. That's probably one of the most amazing tools for a volunteer. And then the perks of volunteering. Now, for me, what does volunteer look like? I wake up super early. I wake up at like 5:15 in the morning. And then I get myself ready. I go to work. I work a 50-hour-a-week job. Right? Come home, I take care of my family. I want to make sure that they're taken care of. Like I said, family's the most important piece. But then I go and volunteer. And volunteering is hard. I mean, this last year, I did get an award from the President of the United States for volunteering, for volunteering over 500 hours to one of all the organizations I volunteer for. 500 hours is quite a bit when you consider 50-hour work week, family, especially since one of my sons only has 2 chambers in his heart, so he has medical issues. My oldest son has allergies and other issues, so there's a lot of medical need in there also. And then my daughters are into gymnastics and dance, which takes up a ton of time, right? So this is what it looks like for me, is doing these pieces, but it's extending myself. I recognize that I'm helping others, but I have to give up something for myself. Right? I have to spend some of my personal time. Some of the time I really like, I'm a huge movie fanatic. I love watching movies. I devour them, even if they're pretty awful. Partially so I can get like social context. Everybody's talking about a movie or a series and I have no idea what they're talking about. Especially in the writing community, I found if you haven't watched that movie or seen that TV show, you kind of start to become an outlier. So I've expended some of that time to volunteering instead. Now, you can't see it very well. This is a quote from Jerry Rice, right? And the quote says, I think my secret is that there is no shortcuts for hard work, determination, and having that don't give up attitude. It can be really tough to sacrifice your own time. And no question, there's no shortcut to working really hard. And this month alone, I've had to work every Saturday, but not working volunteering. I volunteered almost every day, every Saturday this month, the entire day. Different meetings, different groups, and that's not easy. I love spending time with my kids, right? Now my kids don't necessarily feel the same about spending time with me. They're young, they're getting into that teenage year. But that little bit of time, I've had to sacrifice. I do make sure that I always spend Sundays with my family. I almost always make sure I spend Monday nights with my family. I always make sure that I have time for my family. Like I said, it's important. Now, when it comes to volunteering, you get what you put in. So if you give a little, you're going to get a little. You can't expect a lot of self-promotion from donating an hour here or there. You'll get some. You'll get a little bit of recognition and notoriety, but you have to go all in when it comes to volunteering to get the most out of volunteering. Now, my favorite thing is you don't have to be an expert to volunteer. Most of us, especially me, I am not a social media specialist. I am not an expert, right? If you want to self-promote yourself through social media, that is tough. You've got to study things, you've got to understand trends, you've got to be able to use those resources. And that's just one area of marketing. That's just one sliver of marketing. But when it comes to volunteering, you don't have to be an expert. You just have to show up and be reliable. And you don't have to be a genius, which is good, because I'm not a genius. Now, when it comes to volunteering, you've got to make sure you stand out. That's how you make all the right contacts. That's how you make all the networking. It makes all the difference. It's made all the difference for me. Now, I do this by showing up early to everything. I mean, I'm pretty fanatical when it comes to this piece. I try to show up 15 to 30 minutes before anything starts. I was here this morning at 7:30 in the morning, right, to set up a table that I knew that maybe 6 people would walk past, right? So, show up early. Now, dress sharp. Now, when I say this, dress sharp. Now, this is or, and I put a little clause there, or in your brand. I put that in there specifically for Johnny Worthing. or in your brand. Now, what that means is you want people to recognize you no matter what event you volunteer at. You need to be consistent. That's your brand. You're building your brand. When I work here, when I volunteer here, I look like this. Next weekend, I'm going to be at Wizarding Days. I'm going to look like this. When I go to LTUE Strike Makers, I'm going to look exactly like this with my suit. When I'm at my other conference, the Spring League of Utah Writers Conference, I'm going to look exactly like this. Everybody can then pinpoint you every time. They go, that guy's everywhere. I see that guy everywhere. Now, you don't have to wear a suit to get that same effect. Johnny Worthing has proven this. But it's being consistent. Now, when I mean consistent, just throwing on jeans and a t-shirt, when you know that all the other volunteers are going to wear jeans and a t-shirt, is not standing out. Unless the t-shirt says something specific, hopefully appropriate. So, you're going to want to pick your wardrobe very carefully when it comes to going to these events and building your brand. Because when you're out doing at your own table, when you're out selling books, when you're at libraries, when you're doing other things, just in the public, you want people to say, I know that guy. I know that girl. They're everywhere. Right? For a while, Dan almost thought I was stalking him. That's because I look exactly like this. I go to every event, and there was a series where, like, almost every weekend we were at the same event. And then it would be like right outside the classroom, he would be presenting, and he's like, deja vu? Now, I wrote an article on LinkedIn. I call it my Sherlock article. Now, what I mean by when I wrote this article is about how I was always jealous. I love Sherlock Holmes, especially the recent iterations. how when he sees somebody, he can judge them. He can see most likely where they come from, what their class is, what their habits are. He identifies it. I thought, gosh, that would be the coolest skill ever. And then I was doing some research and I found out that we actually do that. We do that now. We just don't consciously do it. We don't earmark things on people. When we see people, it's not just, can I trust this person? Which is one thing that we do. But it's not just that, right? When we look at somebody, we make the exact same assumptions. How poor is this person? How successful is this person? Where is this person most likely from? Does this person have a family? We make all of those same exact assumptions subconsciously, and we earmark that person. And from then on, moving forward, you always have those tags on that person. And this has been proven throughout different magazines of psychology. So it's very important for the first impression to be top-notch. That goes with what you're choosing to dress when you go to events. Work hard, work eagerly. Now, having been somebody who has organized events or helped organize events, that's really dependent on volunteers. Volunteers who work hard and are eager always stand out. When they bend over backwards for you, they make an impression that's unlike any other. And as a leader, when they come to me to ask me a favor or just they need a little bit of help, I am so happy to help that person. They've done so much for me, I want to do as much as I can for them. So the same thing's true as you volunteer for these events. You may never ask a favor. I'll probably never ask a favor from LTUE, at least not publicly. But just having that available, just having those resources available, that's unbelievable. That's fantastic. Now, stay until this is important. This has happened to me before where I say, stay until the end of an event. I've had events where it was time to clean up the event and all my volunteers disappeared. Like they just vanished. It was magical. They were gone. I've never seen people move so fast. And guess who was stuck cleaning up the entire event? Just a couple of us. Just a couple of us. Most of us, the leadership of the event. Now, there's a conference I attended, the GIVE conference. GIVE Salt Lake is put on by Steve Young's foundation. Tremendous conference. And I volunteered for this conference. And I kept these philosophies in mind. I try to do this with all my philosophies when I volunteered. Went to the event, showed up early, worked hard, found out that 3/4 of the volunteers didn't show up for the event. They needed help desperately. And the volunteer coordinator came to me and said, I hate to be a burden. Is there any way you can volunteer more hours? I said, absolutely. Absolutely, no question. No hesitation. Helped out. And I wore my suit, even volunteering. And at the end of the day, I stayed to the end of the event. They had me move some signage from one floor to another floor. It wasn't especially difficult, but it was bulky. And after the event was all the way over, I made sure that it helped cleaning up. This guy comes over to me and goes, you did this, you put in extra hours? I said, yeah, absolutely. He goes, and you moved all of this signage, you moved all this stuff up here. I said, yeah. He said, you did that in a suit. I said, I know, right? And he goes, are you going to come back next year? I said, I plan on it. Plan on coming back next year. He goes, good. I'm the chairman for Steve Young's Foundation. I want to make sure you're more involved next year. I want to make sure you help with volunteers. This next year, I need you. People like you. Now, I didn't go to that event hoping to become good friends with the foundation chair, but that resource is going to be unmeasurable. Right? Those resources are unmeasurable. So you go to every conference with those same goals, help to the very end, help the leadership, work hard. Don't promote your book. This is the hardest part. And going to and volunteering at an event. I've seen so many make this mistake where they volunteer. They get close to somebody kind of important. And they say, hey, Johnny Morgan, not Siri. Hey, Johnny Morgan. He goes, I read books also. heard you're an acquisitions editor. That's unattractive. That's unattractive. When you're in the middle of volunteering, do not promote yourself unless they ask you. Now, if you're walking down the hall, you're showing Johnny where the green room is, and he goes, "Hey, are you a writer by any chance?" And they say, "Yeah, this is what I write." If the conversation starts from the other side, absolutely. They've invited it. But when you kind of push your stuff, it turns everybody off. It turns negative, and people will talk to other people and say, "I like this guy's volunteer, but I think he's just here to promote his stuff." And you'll never, that's how you'll be stuck for the rest of volunteering with that group. Make yourself unforgettable. All these other steps really make that happen, right? But the one thing that makes everybody unforgettable as an organization, as somebody who's organized something, I send out thank you emails to all of my volunteers. I cannot make it happen without them. But there's the rare exception where a volunteer emails me and thanks me for the opportunity to volunteer. And you know what? That person sticks out to me. And it's like the easiest thing you can do. Thank you for the opportunity to volunteer. It meant so much for me to attend your conference for free and have the opportunity to meet so many wonderful people. That just sticks in their brain. It's permanently attached to you, just like the way you dress. Another Jerry Rice. I love Jerry Rice, by the way. I'm a huge 49ers fan. When I wrote for Sports Illustrated, I wrote for the 49ers. Love Jerry Rice. This is one of my favorite quotes. Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can accomplish what others can't. Jerry Rice admits to everyone, he was never the fastest wide receiver in the NFL. He was never the strongest receiver in the NFL. Right? But he was the most dependable. He practiced and he worked so hard. He could hit his routes so well. When the quarterback, when Joe Montana or Steve Young threw the ball, they knew precisely where he was always going to be. He was so reliable. And that made him one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. When you sacrifice your time to these different organizations and events, you're doing what others won't. Now, there's some people that just volunteer for events because they like people, they're friends with them, so they'll volunteer. But events always need more volunteers, especially ones that work extra hard. Now, why is volunteering the best option for self-promotion? Let's be honest, as soon as somebody finds a really neat trend, blogging, Facebook, Twitter, as soon as somebody finds like a really hot marketing topic, everybody jumps on it. It kind of clogs the artery of marketing for that area. You do the best you can in that area in the hopes that you're one of the few that really accelerates in that particular area of marketing. Volunteering isn't on anybody's radar. Well, very few people's radar when it comes to self-promotion. Now, that's not the only reason why it's the best. Right? You get to make a difference in people's lives. You get to meet so many different people. That's kind of rewarding to yourself. That's good. But what's even better is what Maya Angelou said. Right? People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But they'll never forget how you made them feel. When you volunteer for people, they emotionally invest back in you. Right? That's what makes some of these other marketing tools so incredible at first. Right? Because everybody kind of gets a special connection with an author. And then they realize that everybody's in there. And then it becomes less of a special connection. When you volunteer, you have a special connection with authors, a special connection with organizers, and they'll always remember how you made them feel when you worked so hard. You did everything right. Now, one of my favorite pieces, and this was unintended, like I said, I didn't begin volunteering to promote myself at first. But it was understanding, I call this understanding. Now it's a PlayStation 4, which I wish I owned. I do have an Xbox One. A PlayStation 4, and I compare this to understanding or interacting with LTUE. It's meant to be easy to understand and work with. Right? It's not always, not to everybody, but it's made to interface really easy, right? You get the Surface, right? The PlayStation 4, you can put in like a 7-year-old's hand. They can figure it out. They can play the games. You get them a Surface, not so easy, right? A little bit tougher to interface with. Right? It's more sophisticated, but that's because the tools are more sophisticated. It's like another conference. Let's call it one-story makers for now. Then there's this. This is an HP server. Now, if you knew how to use a PlayStation, you knew how to use a Surface, then there is a great chance, there isn't any guarantee that you know how to interface with a server, right? This is a very highly complicated tool that can provide unbelievable resources, but it is so difficult to understand how it works at first. We'll call this Comic-Con for now. But when you volunteer for these different things, you get to see from the inside out how they function, how they work, how they choose their panel presentations, how they map their vendor rooms. You begin to get an inside understanding of how these pieces work. And when you do that, when it's your turn to then interact with those organizations, you know exactly who to contact. You know exactly the right place to go or who to talk to. You just do, because you've had the opportunity to interface with them. Right? You have a great understanding. So when you volunteer, you'll understand these events better. You can utilize them better for your marketing purposes. Now, volunteering can invite change. This has been a very popular quote recently. Volunteering is the ultimate exercise in democracy. You vote in elections once a year, but when you volunteer, you vote every day what kind of community you want to live in. This is especially true for writers. As an author, right when I joined the League of Utah Writers, I thought, gosh, I really wish the League of Utah Writers had this tool, would provide this service. I wish anybody would. I wish that we had these resources available to us. Now, I'm the president of the League of Utah Writers, so I'm kind of spoiled. I get to help make change. I'm making these resources available that I so desperately wanted and need. And I know the rest of the community needs it also. So when you volunteer, you have a voice. You have a chance to alter the writing community so that it benefits you, right? And as well as others, it kind of goes hand in hand. But you can help it fit the needs that you want, that you have. Now, LinkedIn. This is the secret weapon of my volunteering. LinkedIn. Most people see LinkedIn and they see a resume online, which is true. It maps exactly like a resume, right? But there's secret pieces to it that people aren't utilizing, or they're underutilizing. Number one, I have over 500 connections. I actually have over 1,500 connections. That's because every time I volunteered at an organization, every time I've made a difference, every time I've met a leader and shook their hand, I looked them up on LinkedIn and I friended them on LinkedIn. And they remembered who I am right there. They're not going to remember a week from then. Right? I linked to them on LinkedIn right away. They know who I am, they remember me. And this is important. Upfront, right away, it's not super important.
I mentioned this before. Of all the social media, this one I know is your favorite, but it's my least favorite.
Absolutely. It's most people's least favorite.
And why is that?
Because when people see it, they do. They see resume. Do I really need a resume out there online, right? This is what they see. This is right off my LinkedIn, right? It looks like a resume.
Yeah.
You're like, this isn't sexy. This isn't exciting when it comes to promotion. That's because this promotion, and people need to understand this piece, this promotion isn't promoting to new readers. This promotion isn't promoting to existing readers who are just present in the community. This tool connects you with all the other upper sections of all the leadership of every organization you touch. This piece, LinkedIn, is meant to give you an ability to interface with the leadership of Comic-Con. They're all on LinkedIn, right? All of the leadership at Comic-Con on LinkedIn. Salt Lake Comic-Con, regular San Diego Comic-Con, LDS Story Makers, every organization, every group, their leadership is here. Now they don't go here at first to do anything but just kind of connect, keep connections. It's like a connections manager, right? It's just meant to so that you can look somebody up really quick and go, oh yeah, they're the marketing director for Deseret Books, right?
You're not selling it.
Well, hold on. Here's where it comes. Here, I had to get the dry part out first. So this is what it really is. You might recognize this book.
I love that book. One of my favorites. Awesome book. You read that?
I can't see.
It's
anything
Celeste.
except
It's book 2 of the series.
Oh, that's
It's
your
book
book.
2. It's Johnny Worthen's book, yes. Now, when somebody sees a book, just like a resume, just when they first look at it, it's kind of like a resume, right? Now, this is what I love. Book review, right, for Johnny Worthen, right? This is amazing, right? Look, right off Amazon, I stole right off their webpage, right? These pieces right here, where other people say, this book is amazing. Now, when you go to Comic-Con, when I go to Comic-Con, I say, you should read this book. It's right down your alley. There's a chance they believe me or they like the story. But when you have like 20 or 30 people or more, you say, this book is phenomenal. Then you go, I have to read that. You don't necessarily have to even sell me on the story. I have to read that book. That is a great book. It's so tough. It's so tough to get through the wheat from the chaff. We see a lot of subpar material out there these days when it comes to books. The same is true about authors. The same is true about volunteers. The same is true about people you trust. Now, LinkedIn, you can't see it very well. These are all comments that people have made about me specifically. These are all very personal comments that you can't see very well on a kind of blurry screen. But what they are is they're individual comments that people have left about me.
Restraining order?
Yeah, restraining order. Prison sentence. No. They say things in there. They say, look, this guy is super reliable. This guy is creative. This guy's a game changer. This is my book review for me. Right? This is what sells leadership on me. It gets people to take a chance on me because they know I'm reliable. They know I'm good. They know I'm solid. And it's not by one or two people. I have actually over like 30 different reviews from people. Right? This becomes a piece where this is your book review to leaders, to all the different conferences out there. Why should we invite this guy? Let's Google him. See his website. Okay, what's up? His LinkedIn page. Wait, this guy's got 30 comments from people from different organizations, different leaderships. I have city council members, to state representatives, to leadership from an art council to other groups. This makes a difference. Now, here's another secret piece that you can't really see super well. These are articles I've written for LinkedIn. I've written it for myself, but I published them on LinkedIn. Here's a secret weapon. You've already friended everybody at these other groups, these other organizations. You've connected with them on LinkedIn. Every time you publish something on LinkedIn, it appears on their feed, just like Facebook. Except for on Facebook, top-end authors and leadership, their Facebook pages are they're already full. How do you get visibility with some of these people? LinkedIn will do. I write an article, I put it out there, right? Anybody who's connected to me, all 1,500 people, this shows up on their little feed. Now I have a whole bunch of different things out there because I work for a tech firm. I have technology articles, I have advice articles, wide variety of things. I publish this on a regular basis because it keeps me present in their minds, which is okay. It's not great, it doesn't guarantee they're going to click on it. However, this does guarantee visibility. LinkedIn will tell you anytime somebody has an anniversary at their position. Congratulate Johnny Worthen for his 6th year as acquisition editor in this job. I can go on there and leave a personal message for that individual that hits their email to you, right? This person has changed their job from marketing at Deseret Books to Chief Operations Officer at Deseret Books. It will tell me that. LinkedIn gives me that information. I now know that a resource that I have, a friend that I've made, has now moved into a more successful position that I can then reach out to for those resources. It's tough. When I started working with Comic-Con, I worked with a fantastic fellow named Jared. Great name.
Absolutely, one of my faves.
Yeah, hugs everybody. Love the guy, right? Because of LinkedIn, I found out that he became directly connected with Phoenix's Comic-Con. I have a lot of friends and resources down there. And as soon as I saw that, the moment I saw that, I sent him a little message. I said, hey, I have some friends in Phoenix that are trying to get into the Phoenix Comic-Con. This is what they do. He goes, Jared, I know you. I love you. You're a great guy. Give me their email address. I'll ping them. They're working with Comic-Con now. They're in. I would have not seen this on Facebook. I would not have seen this through Twitter. He didn't just announce it on Twitter. And he's a very social media guy. I saw this instantly on LinkedIn. This lets you know when all the major players change positions. This individual is no longer with LDS Storymakers, they're now with LTUE. Good to know, I know this now. So LinkedIn not only is your book cover to leaderships of all the other organizations who are trying to put you in a position to be successful. This is what gives you the access to the resources for you to then attend a conference and get selected to be put in a larger room than typical, to be promoted on a table that's closer to a friendlier area. These kinds of connections do this. LinkedIn. And it's super easy to maintain. Super easy to maintain. It doesn't require the same demands as Twitter, Facebook, or any of the other pieces. This will always keep you in front of all the leaderships. Now, let's briefly talk about the perks of volunteering, right? Because there are definite perks. There's my book. This will be the only time I'm going to promote my book. This is my most popular book. I actually just got published on a horror anthology, which is fantastic. It's on sale in the other room.
At least tonight, that looks.
That's true. That's true. Just volunteering for the league. Just volunteering for the Art Council. I didn't promote my book once. I never went out there and said, this is my book. Just being present in these organizations, my book sales tripled. Now, going from 6 books to 12 books isn't impressive to some people. But for me, it was important. No, it really did. It was a game changer for me. My book sales went from 300 to 900. And I didn't even promote my book. I didn't tell people I had a book. But people wanted to know who I was. They were invested. They wanted to see who the heck this person was. One of the perks of volunteering is your book sales go up. Your presence goes up. No, it's not the only perk. This is kind of me. You can kind of see it right at the West Jordan Arts Council when I volunteered. Being a volunteer in the West Jordan Arts Council, I was then given space to put on a workshop for free. Now, anybody knows that unless you're connected to somebody, this space cost you, for the 2 hours I put on this event, this space will cost you about $2,000. Right? Just to be in this room for a couple of hours. I was able to put on this workshop for free. I was able to help people. I didn't have to charge people. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. That started giving me more visibility. That's a perk. Suddenly I was invited to the city's events to promote the Art Council. People naturally ask you questions. How did you get involved with the Art Council? What do you do? Literary? Are you a published author? Yeah, that's me. Because you asked me, I'm going to tell you. I published a book. Right? Now, I get to do some really neat events. That's my son, Duncan. You can kind of barely make out. I got to do a Craft Lake City, which is an outside-the-box volunteer, right? Craft Lake City isn't like a super pro-author event. It's a very like hands-on crafty event. Really cool, really neat. But what I discovered early on is when you volunteer for these outside-the-box opportunities, there is no competition for you. Nobody else is there selling books. I helped a gentleman out at a state fair. Well, not state fair, the Davis County Fair. He was the only author at the fair. He just published his first book, nobody had heard of him. He brought 4 boxes of books. He had like 60 books, right? He sold out of all of them. And it's not because he was this super dynamic guy. He's a friendly guy. It's not because the story was the most compelling story on the planet that they had to buy it. It was a very, very special niche. It was the LDS story. So it was a very specific market. At this fair, because he had 0 competition, he sold out of all of his books. Because they weren't spending their money on anybody else's books. Right? Look for these opportunities outside the box to both volunteer and put yourself out there. They're a huge difference. People don't think about it. Because you go, that's not an author event. That's not a writing event. That's not where other authors are selling books. They're not thinking big picture. Right? They're not thinking, nobody else is selling a book there. I can make a killing there. So I got to do these other art council things, which is great. So this is really cool. I got to be on the radio. I got to go on air with one of the best people I know, one of the smartest people I know, who's sitting over here at the end of the room. Got to go on the radio, FM 100. It was fantastic. Right? That's a perk from volunteering. If I didn't volunteer, if I didn't put myself out there, that's not even an opportunity for me, right? Or you get to be on TV. I got to be on TV with 2 of the coolest people I know. These people helped. These people were the core of Spring in the Books, our first event out in West Jordan. I got to be on TV. I got to be on Channel 2 with these guys, with the newscasters. If I don't volunteer, these options are not possible. They're not accessible. On air, I got to tell them that I was a published author because they asked.
They asked.
And I got to tell them what book. Instantly, 10,000 people knew, right? They're going to Google you, especially if they're readers, if they're awake. Some are awake better. Comic-Con. This is one of my favorite moments at Comic-Con.
Who's that handsome man?
This was my very first panel at Comic-Con. I just published my 2nd book, and I'm sitting next to Larry Correa and Mr. Johnny Worthen himself, and Dan Wells, and Dan Willis, and Nathan Schumann, and Natalie, just lost her name.
No.
These are all well-known published authors. How did I even get this shot? How do I get on this panel? Comic-Con put me there because they saw I volunteered for all these things. I was leadership and I was trending. I was working really hard. I made a difference in the community. They said, we got to get this guy on a panel. He's already got a lot of people who are behind him. He needs to be on a panel. Now I was scared to death of this panel. Just because you earn the right to be on the panel doesn't mean you're not going to be terrified. But it's a perk. Got to go to Comic-Con. Got to go for free. Got to hang out with the coolest authors on stage.
Good day.
So, to kind of recap, you kind of know what volunteering looks like. It's hard work. It's dedicating time on your schedule that you would set aside for yourself to watch TV, to watch movies, to go to a sporting event. I love the jazz, but I've been to fewer jazz games this year, right? I kind of skipped over the rest of that. Just say, this is the best option because people aren't really utilizing this to its full extent. You tie this in with LinkedIn. You go meet all these important people, you tie yourself to them with LinkedIn, then you use LinkedIn to stay in front of them, because they're going to be over other events. Use LinkedIn to stay informed, right? So, I love this quote by Albert Einstein, because strive not to be successful, but rather to be of value. Albert Einstein is without a doubt one of the most highly, I don't know, he contributed so much to both destruction and society all at the same time. There's no question, everybody knows who Albert Einstein is. No question. If you want to gain that same level, you need to make yourself worth something, value to people. Use these tools. Now, we got about 7 minutes left, so if you want to ask any questions or if you want to look at John Worthen's profile.
If I could say something about this, and that is that
Yes.
my plan for success in the business has always been partly that if you do not give back, you cannot take. And the only way to achieve your dreams is to help other people achieve theirs. And that is why you do these panels, that's why you come to LTUE. It's a privilege and a responsibility. And so, but it's, in the world of being an author, these kind of events and being able to give back and help other people is in fact a heavy part of the payment you get back as being an artist. Because art is it's a hard business to make a living in. And so if once you start finding other definitions of what could be considered payment, if you will, if you measure your success outside of just monetary gains, but as far as spiritual fulfillment, volunteering is second to none. And it's changed none. You've changed none.
I appreciate that. John's changed my life. I like that little give and take that we get.
I mean, I wouldn't be here without him. I'll be here next year.
Does anybody have any questions about how to use the tools or?
I have a question. For your volunteer experience, do you also list that on your LinkedIn
I do.
profile? How do you do?
Now what you could have, let me see if I can go back. It's kind of blurry. Might be able to get it out. A few slides. Right here with the section, oops, almost. Here we go. On the left-hand side is my work experience. These are the pieces that I'm in. On the right here, you can see it says volunteer. There's a whole section just for volunteer stuff that you can put up there. Now here's one of my favorite tools I didn't want to mention. When you post a change to your LinkedIn, when I say I volunteer, when I say now I'm on the Utah Poet Laureate Selection Committee, one of 6 that I have no idea how I got on. When you post this, it goes out to everybody you're connected to. All 1,500 people I'm connected to, I'll now know I'm part of this committee.
I have a question. Earlier you said that your book sales went from 300 to 900.
Yes,
Is that a year? Is that an event? What?
that was in a year. I've only been doing this for about almost 2 years, a year and a half. So that happened in a year. Now, do I expect those sales to stay the same? I don't. I'm realistic. There's a kind of a saturation point first until you break into another level of people, a bigger audience. Now, I have been getting into a bigger audience by being included at other events and other organizations. But my biggest punch was when I became president of the League of Utah Writers. Everybody in the organization now was like, who is this guy? How come he was selected to be our leader? I wanted the same myself. But yeah, that was in 1 year. My book sales have slowed. I've had about just over 1,200. Or just over 1,200 right now. So it's like 300 in the next one. And
900.
So there'll be fluctuations, but the fact that I didn't do anything, like I really didn't study hard and hit Twitter super hard, so I was in front of everybody all of a sudden. Then I had access to this piece.
Let me give you a success story that I've had. Down in our little town in southern Utah, south of Moab, we're down in Blanding, and there's not a lot going on. So we decided we were going to start up a Renaissance fair. So when my second book came out, it fits the theme. I sold 100 books that day. So, but we volunteered, we stepped up, we organized, we put it together, and then we had to pay. So
Yes.
it works even way down in the middle of nowhere.
I love it. It works even in the middle of nowhere. That should be my new catchphrase.
Okay, so less of a success story, more of background of the question. I have had, so I came from back east, you know. I had spent hundreds of hours volunteering at different events. I was the first person to show up. I was the last person to leave. I knew every kid in the stake, like by name. And I've had people comment on that before. I never found a level of success in actually making those connections effective towards making any sort of a difference. So you talked about branding, you talked about being dedicated and adding value by being there and being, I feel you didn't mention this specifically, but you did say, be sure to check in with leadership, and that goes a long way for standing out because you're making your face known. Do you have any other things you might add to make this effective beyond the LinkedIn and the other points mentioned?
So that's really the piece. When you're in that situation, you're building your network of people. Now, being able to utilize that network towards a particular cause. Now, I have published books. I had books that were already present that I was selling. Now, it might have been tough for me to use that network to help me get a book published, but probably would have helped me. I would have been tougher, a use of that network. But by building the network, if you tomorrow published a book and you have that network, there's a good chance, from my experience, from things I've seen, that book is going to sell because people have invested in your network. And you're right, branding makes a difference. Making sure people remember who you are, it makes a big difference.
You have to get it, it's easy.
It's like you need a program.
No, you don't need a programming degree. They made LinkedIn far easier recently. So it's very easy. Click a button, put in our information.
We'll get you.
Remembering your
So we have a couple extra minutes. Well, actually, we're right at the end of time, really. I mean, we can still look at John's profile.
No.
I have to get on his hotspot in order to do that.
Well,
No,
let's look over his shoulder, he's on that.
I'll look it up when I get back up to
I
the.
forgot my password. It's been so long since I've been in it.
Well, if you have any
Sexy
questions,
beast.
if you wonder anything, or if you want any follow-up detail,
Yeah.
I'm the president of the Utah Rights. If you go there, you can just click on my name or email me directly. My email is pretty easy, jaredquan@gmail.com. I have some cards I can give out really quick. Thing is, it's an art. It's really an art to building a network. It's an art to selling your book. It's an art all of its own to master, right? It's like composing an orchestra. It's not easy, but you need all the help that you can get. And this is one of those resources I think can help everyone. So I really appreciate you attending my class. So, thank you so much.